And customer support is something that we prioritize a lot because we actually personally had churned from a couple of our vendors because their support wasn't great. And that's when we are like, that should never be the reason for customers churning from us.
In this episode, I'm joined by Neel Balar, co founder and CEO of Clueso. Starting with two of his co founders, Akash and Prajwal, in the final year at IIT Madras, Neel has led Clueso from a note taking tool for students to a successful B2B SaaS serving 350 plus B2B customers worldwide. Clueso helps product teams create stunning product videos and documentation in minutes. Hey, hi Neil. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks, Vishesh, for having me. Really excited for this.
Yeah, we've never met in person, and it was good bumping into you on LinkedIn. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Clueso does, why now is the right time, and what are you solving for your customers?
For sure. Yeah, so just to give you a quick intro, I'm Neel, one of the co-founders at Clueso. I graduated from IIT Madras 2 years ago. And, my co-founders and I, we all met in IIT Madras and we were in the third year of college is when we started working together on multiple different products. And then we started with a product called Desklamp. It was a digital reading and note-making tool for students and researchers, scaled that to 60,000 plus signups. And then, realized because we were selling it to students, the monetization potential wasn't there. So we actually then, pivoted to Clueso after that, but we also got into YC in between. So we applied to YC with our previous product, and then we were part of the, YC Winter 23 batch. So April to Jan to April 2023.
Right.
And that's when we were exploring multiple different ideas and then pivoted to Clueso. So at Clueso, what we are building is a way for anyone to be able to create really professional videos and written documentation very quickly from raw screen recordings. One thing that we've been seeing again and again is a lot of software companies want to create demo videos for their product, training videos for their product, feature release videos, product walkthrough videos, or demos for their websites as well, or sometimes internal training videos as well. But the process of creating those videos is super challenging. It requires, expertise in like video editing, being super professional with your voice as well when you're recording and whatnot. And there's a lot of challenges with creating these videos, and it takes up hours and hours of time. So with Clueso, what we are doing is we're giving that, power of video creation to anyone, wherein anyone can do a very quick rough screen recording of them explaining any workflow on their screen, and from that Clueso automatically generates a really professional video with like branding, professional effects like zooms, blurs, call outs, AI voiceovers with a professional script, along with the step-by-step written documentation as well. So we are automating the process of creating demo videos, product videos, any kind of walkthrough or training videos as well. And that's what we are building at Clueso right now. We work with 350 plus customers, paying customers
Right.
across the globe. Majority of our customers are from the US, some from Europe, and some from India and other geographies as well. But yeah, that's where we are. And we're based in Bangalore. The team is based in Bangalore as well, and we all have an office here. And yeah, currently a 12-member team.
Awesome, awesome, good progress. And so you said you started with a note-taking tool for students as an idea and entered YC. Was that batch an in-person batch or a virtual batch? This is out of COVID, right?
Yeah, that was actually just right after COVID. So that was the first in-person batch after COVID. So
Interesting.
it was in person, and then we did go to San Francisco for that.
Right. And so, how YC is famous for helping startups pivot? How was your pivoting journey, and how instrumental was the YC feedback to get you to where you are today?
No, absolutely. It was YC was overall very, very helpful for us. As I mentioned, we were building a different product before, and we were just, focused on getting more users and not revenue at all. Because
Right.
as students, again, that was very exciting for us. And we didn't really focus on actually getting revenue, or the product was free. We never tried having like a paid subscription as well. And, when we were interviewing with YC, that's one of the things that partners brought up, which is this is like a graveyard space. Students, don't like paying for software, or you'd never be able to build like a really big business with this particular idea. But then, at that point, we were like, we actually are doing things differently. And, here's why we can win. And, here's why we think this could become really big as well. But
Right.
then, they still really like the team. And then they were like, we really like the team. So we want to like fund you guys. And then, now over the next few months, you need to just validate or invalidate this idea very, very quickly. And then if you're able to invalidate this, then move on to something else, and then try and see what you want to work on. And that's when we started thinking deeply about revenue and what we could achieve with the product that we had. And then we started realizing that, yeah, the business scope for that wasn't a lot. And that's when in the middle of the YC batch, we were exploring multiple different ideas that we could work on. We're interviewing a lot of other founders from our batch, because they all came from like a lot of different backgrounds. Like a lot of them were like people who were ex-founders, people from big tech, people from like early founding engineers, or like founding members from early stage startups as well. So that way we had a lot of people we could talk to for our user interviews, irrespective of which idea we wanted to test out. So that was really, really helpful. And of course, YC partners were really helpful with their feedback as well. Whenever we were exploring any ideas, they did, give in their feedback based on like, thousands of companies that they themselves have worked with as well. So overall, that was super helpful as well. And I think I'd say, I mean, YC was definitely a game changer, in our journey. It was just really helpful. We learned so many things at YC, and super grateful for that.
And so, one of the pains that I have kind of come across personally, and then one of the earlier guests also was solving for this, was keeping these product videos up to date with changes.
Yeah.
Have you guys spent any energy in that direction? And like, how does currently someone keep their product videos up to date when using Clueso?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, that's something that we keep hearing a lot as well. That's definitely a big challenge. There are two ways we kind of try to solve it. So we don't do auto updating yet, but the way we try to solve for it is, one is we just make the creation much faster and easier. So that way, if something is going out of date, you can just re-record it in a much faster and easier way. So that's number one. The second way we also solve it is we make your video creation modular. So if something has gone out of date, you can just replace that with like, a new screen recording in between, and then the script would still remain the same, and it still automatically add an AI voiceover on top of it. So by making it modular, we made it easier for people to update their videos. So these are two ways we are trying to solve this. But the ideal goal is, of course, to auto update the video entirely whenever the UI goes out of date. And that's something that we are actively working on, or trying to think about how we could do that, and have tried building like a couple of internal prototypes. But yeah, I think that's definitely one of the problems that we actively want to solve for in the near future.
Got it. And so you went from 0 to 200 customers without any employees, 200 plus customers without any employees. How crazy was that, and why did you choose to do that?
Yeah, that is actually, I'd say, very hectic, but very, very exciting as well. So I think, yeah, as you mentioned, we went from 0 to 200 plus customers, a good chunk in revenue as well. Uh, with just me and my co-founders, it was just three of us. Both my co-founders were just like building product, releasing new features every week. I just focused on doing more demos, getting more customers on board, onboarding them, and then making sure that they were finding value with the product. And that actually worked really well for us. And the reason why we wanted to do that was because before we expanded the team, we wanted to be sure that this is the idea, or that this is the direction that we're going to go in. And we wanted to have a lot more clarity than just saying that, okay, we want to build a tool and let's just hire a team and then try and build that. Because I think that clarity really helps, because otherwise if you start hiring people prematurely, what ends up happening is you try creating work so that everyone can keep working on something, and you cannot be focused on one particular thing. So we wanted to be very sure about that, and very careful as well, wherein we were like, okay, let's try and do something. We will just focus on fewer things, but try to do those really, really well. And if those are working, that's when we'll start think about expanding. And at that point, like when, as you mentioned, 200 plus customers, that's when we knew that this direction that we were in was really, really working. A lot of our customers were really, really loving the product, referring the product to a lot of other people as well. And the kind of feedback that we started to hear from them was also actually very similar. And that's when we knew that the base is already there. Now we just got to move in this particular direction, and then just get there as fast as we can. And that's when we are like, now we need more bandwidth on the engineering side. So like started more hiring more engineers. And now that there were more engineers, and as you're shipping much faster, we needed someone who could design those features as well. So we hired designers. Given that the scale of customers was expanding really quickly, we needed someone to actually manage those customers as well along with me. So that's why we hired a customer success manager as well.
And so initially, when you scaled from 0 to 200, you were the only person doing CS, or
Yeah.
the three of you were?
See, correct. Yes. So sales, I was the only person doing it, but support, all of us were doing it.
Right.
The way we were doing support was basically any customer we worked with. One of the things that we were doing was basically, making sure that we have a direct way to, connect with them or, answer their questions whenever anything comes up. So we tried creating Slack channels, Teams chats, WhatsApp groups, Discord, whatever our customers use. We wanted to create a channel for them to reach out to us very quickly whenever required. And all three of us founders were there on all of these channels. So, whenever anyone reached out, whoever sees that message first, they would just, open the message and then get back right away. And, that's something that we were doing. And then support was something that all three of us were doing. And that worked out really well for us as well. So that way, all of us were in direct touch with customers, trying to understand the customers' problems directly as well, and trying to see in terms of the product, what should we be doing to like actually solve for these challenges, problems, and whatnot. So overall, yeah, support side, all three of us were handling. And even now, the support is still handled by, three of us founders and our customer success manager. Mainly the customer success manager is taking up a lot of load on that end now.
Right.
And then me and my co-founders are still very much involved and answering questions wherever required.
From the onset, you had a pretty global footprint. How did you manage? Were you guys dividing shifts between the three founders?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, yeah, because I was doing sales and I was doing a lot of demo calls with the companies in the US as well, and sitting in Bangalore. So definitely, I was up till like close to 3 a.m. in the night, pretty much every day, 3:30, 4 a.m. as well. So I would start my day late, like, somewhere like 11 or maybe sometimes 12 as well, and then go on till like 4 and like, even later sometimes. So that's what I was doing. My other two co-founders, they were, waking up early and then, managing the customer queries or, any kind of anything that is required that are coming up in the, morning time zones, so late US time zones, or let's say a Singaporean, Australian, and other time zones as well. So that way we were able to manage it fairly well. And one stat that we have, which is super, super interesting, is even right now, our average response time across all of the geographies, average first response time across our customers, across all the geographies is actually still less than 10 minutes. Basically, we get back as soon as we can and make sure that, our customers are finding value and getting all their questions answered. And customer support is something that we prioritize a lot, because we actually personally had churned from a couple of our vendors because their support wasn't great. And that's when we are like, that should never be the reason for customers churning from us. And that is something that we will prioritize over everything else. And we have been doing that, and we've been seeing great results. In fact, a lot of enterprise customers that we work with who actually have like, probably 1,000 vendors and above, they do keep mentioning that, we are the best in terms of the customer support. We are the best vendor they're working with as well. Like our customer support is best out of like 1,000 plus vendors they're working with as well, which is great because that's also something that helps in adding more business as well. If they like the product, of course, they already love the product, and now that the support is top notch, whenever they need any help, overall experience is really good, because of which they actually refer and bring in a lot of referrals to us as well. So overall, as a business, also it's a great thing for us to prioritize, and it's actually working really well as well. So yeah, support is always like our top priority.
And so some of these support channels, the WhatsApp, Discord, where you have individual client level channels, have you moved towards transitioning some of them out of that direct support line, or you think you're not there yet?
That's a great question. So, with all of our early customers, or like as I mentioned, first 200 customers, we were doing it, and then post that we launched, self-serve as well for people to sign up on their own without having to do a demo call with us or like onboarding call or anything like that. So now a lot of our customers also sign up on their own. So customers who are on the smaller plans like starter and growth plan, we typically now don't create like direct channels with them. We do that only with the enterprise customers and sometimes with growth customers as well. So that's what we are doing. And then, of course, all of our previous channels are still there, because again, those were the customers who, believed in us early on. So we're still happy to, offer them priority support and like, have the direct connect channel with them as well, irrespective of, how much they're paying us or which tier they're on. But for the new customers that we're working with, because again, the scale is just really difficult to manage if we, just have like hundreds and thousands of channels across different, products. So now we kind of prioritize and we only create channels for mainly our enterprise customers and sometimes, few high priority growth customers as well.
Interesting. And so once you nailed down on the idea itself, how did you go about acquiring new customers? B2B, the direction you chose was fairly B2B.
Yeah,
Uh, right,
totally.
and I don't know, in big enterprises on the product front, what role something like this, what role is actually buying this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually a tricky question in our scenario because depending on the geography and the company size, the buyer is actually changing. So in our case, in early stage companies, of course, initially a lot of companies that we were working with were seed stage companies. So, they were the buyers in all of those cases were founders. They themselves were creating videos, demo videos, documentation for their product. So that's one category. The second category was, slightly bigger companies like Series A, Series B companies. And in those cases, typically what we saw was it was either product marketing or customer success or product management teams handling this function. So again, even there it's tricky. In different companies, different people own this particular function of like, creating onboarding videos, demo videos, training videos, documentation or help center articles as well. So that's another thing. These three audiences were relevant in these bigger companies. And beyond that, even bigger companies right now in the enterprises that we work with, there are like specific buyers. In some cases, it's, learning and development teams for their internal team training. In some cases, it's customer education teams for customer facing, creating training courses and videos. In some cases, it's like sales enablement or RevOps teams to actually train their internal teams on their CRM instance, the sales processes, and all of that as well. So the buyers actually do change with the size of the company, and we saw that there's difference between geographies as well. In the US and in India, the buyers were different, and in the US, like post Series B, there's a specific team called customer education team, which is focused on creating customer facing videos, and those became our primary buyers in a lot of those companies. But in India, there's no team like that in most companies, and then there's different teams like still product marketing teams or customer success teams handling this function.
Right. Growth, some of growth or no?
Some, yes, some cases. So growth in marketing, is also are also buyers in some cases. Like fewer companies, I'd say, as probably 5% or like less than 5% of our overall buyers.
I think you mentioned at the very beginning you were attacking job posts and people who were posting certain kind of job roles to identify or qualify or disqualify customers. How well did that work? And would you recommend that as a strategy to others?
Totally, I think so. So for our first 10 to 20 customers, there are a couple of things that we are doing. One thing was, as you mentioned, like looking at some, let's say, customer success or product marketing job openings at software companies. Who in the companies especially who had just raised funds and they're trying to hire for these people. So I'd look at the job role, and then in a lot of those cases they had like a responsibility as like creating product videos and documentation as one of their responsibilities. And in those cases I'd reach out to the hiring manager or like whoever was hiring for that particular role, the leader of that team, or I'd reach out to them on LinkedIn, say, I saw that you're hiring for this role, and then this is one of the responsibilities. Our product can actually help you create all of these videos and documentation very, very quickly. So by the time while you're hiring someone, you can still keep going on this. And then even after you hire them, they will not have enough time to focus on this. So like, with a tool like ours, all of your team members can start creating, all product videos and documentation. And that's one thing that worked very well. So we did, I think we onboarded like two of our first 10 customers like that. Apart from that, I was also part of a few in Slack or WhatsApp communities where people are asking about, how do I create product demo videos, or I'm hiring for this role, and then this is one of the main things that I want them to handle, or how do I how do people create help center articles and all of that. And there I would actually respond by being very helpful in terms of what they should be doing, or what are different ways they could get something done. And then post that, I'd also mention that that's the exact problem that we're trying to solve at Clueso. So if they're interested, I'd love to give a demo. And then we also ended up closing a couple of customers like that. Apart from that, again, I think we also had like a few companies, like two companies from our YC badge in our first 20 customers. So like, because we knew them well, they knew that, we had launched the product, they really liked the product as well. So we got inbound from them automatically, and then they wanted to, buy the product as well. Apart from that, as I mentioned, we've been always building in public, so always launching on LinkedIn, what we're building. So even when we had the first MVP ready for this product, we'd launched that on LinkedIn, got close to 10, 15 demos booked there, and then were able to convert, 4 to 5 of them back then as well. So that's, these are different ways in which we acquired our first few customers. Yeah.
Interesting. How has the GTM changed today from really reaching out to people and super personalized reach out where, hey, I've seen the job posting, to PLG plus enterprise? What are some of the shifts you had to make?
Yeah, yeah, quite a few shifts I'd say. So one thing is back then, until like September, October 2024, I was still doing all the demos, so we did not have a way for people to sign up on their own. So they would first have to book a demo call with me. I would qualify them, give them a demo, and then after that, if it was a good fit and they had a budget for something like this, I would set them up for like a 3-day trial and then get them onboarded. So that's essentially what we were doing until then. But then post that, a couple of things changed. We actually launched self-serve, so now people can sign up on their own. And then the way we still get a lot of people to sign up is through a lot of activities that we do on LinkedIn. So like, we are very active on LinkedIn. So a lot of people get to know about Clueso through LinkedIn. So that's been one way. The second way has been, we've started focusing on SEO as well. So like, we are getting, some signups from like, people just actually searching for very relevant terms and then landing on, one of our pages. So that's been, another channel that we've been working on lately. Apart from that, I still do outbound, very personalized outbound to few companies, like few specific companies who I really want to target and have on board. So that's another thing. Apart from that, referrals has been great for us. Like customers love referring others about how much value they're finding in it. They share it with their community, wherever they are in the events as well. They talk about it. So that's been very nice. Referrals is one thing, and then apart from that, we also have onboarded like a few customers who are very active in their communities. So like
Hmm.
they're like, and they, because they really love the product a lot, they're very vocal about it as well. So they like whenever anyone mentions, I'm looking for this XYZ tool or a video creation tool, do you have any suggestions? And then they're always raving about Cluster. So that's actually been like a great channel as well, because the level of trust there is already very, very high. And then now when they check out the product, if it's very relevant to them, they just the sales cycles become much faster because they already trust the product and they've already heard a lot of great things about it. So that's another thing. And then yeah, outbound is still a little bit of what I do, but not at scale yet. And that's definitely something that we are also planning on scaling up soon.
So most of your outbound right now is on LinkedIn or email or?
LinkedIn. Yes, LinkedIn is the major channel that I do outbound on, because that's where I'm very active as well. I'm posting actively. So, when I'm connecting with people, they're able to see my posts. And then, when I reach out to them, I know that they've probably seen something from Clueso, or they kind of have an idea. And then, reaching out, then it's just like, registering it again in their head that there's something called Clueso. And whenever they do have a requirement for creating videos, they will remember us and then, hopefully come to us again. So that's the idea with doing outbound on LinkedIn and being very strategic about it.
And so these mini influencers or community leaders that you were working with, did you recruit them specifically for
No,
pushing
so
product,
we
or they found you and they started just?
we didn't recruit anyone. So one thing I did was I realized that there's some audience, like product marketing audience or customer education or some of these people. So when I reached out to them, uh, I just searched for these terms on LinkedIn, saw who is actually posting about these on a regular basis. Realized these are people very active in this community. Okay, maybe we should reach out to them. So I reached out to them saying, "Here's what we are building. I saw that you're very active. You lead product marketing function at XYZ company, and I'd love to get your feedback on Clueso and hear your thoughts." And then reach out to them. They would book a demo. In the demo, my goal was to basically get the feedback, but also show them the product so that they know that this is what it can do. And then I know that our product is very magical that way, wherein if I do show it to someone, they will definitely be very impressed. And that's what ended up happening. Those people were really liking it. Some of them did not have a requirement right away, but because they really liked it, they still remembered it very well. And whenever someone else asked for something like that, or like LinkedIn, Slack communities, or like any other Facebook groups or any other channels as well, they would like mention Clueso. So that was great. And we were also fortunately able to acquire some of them as our customers. And then
Hmm.
because now they became customers, we are putting their testimonials on our website. When someone lands the website, they already know this person and they're looking at like a very glowing testimonial from them. So that's again like a great way. And then we also do get a lot of word of mouth, like organic word of mouth. So now that we have self-serve, people sign up on their own, create videos on their own. And with the trial, when they create a video, there's a made with Clueso watermark as well. So a lot of times, people just create a couple of videos, say those on LinkedIn, about the product launch they're doing, and they're like, really love this product called Clueso for creating this demo video. Thanks for helping me create this. Or a lot of people, when they're launching on Product Hunt, they're creating that Product Hunt demo video with Clueso as well. And when a lot of people do get on their product hunt page, they see the video, they see Made with Clue, so they're like, oh wow, this is interesting. Let me check that out as well. So a lot of word of mouth or organic referrals is something that we have been getting. We have actually never paid anyone to refer someone to us, or like I've never hired anyone to do that yet.
Right, right, right. That's interesting that people are launching. In fact, I think I might I might do a video with you guys soon.
Amazing.
And so you've leveraged communities pretty well, including the communities we've been speaking about, but you were also part of SaaS Bhoomi, which is, I don't know if you want to give a quick 1 minute pitch to people who don't know what SaaS Bhoomi is.
Yeah, SaaS Bhoomi is basically like an organization in India, which is just, where hundreds of founders like actually, volunteer to help other founders who are starting up, a SaaS or an AI, product, right? So the goal with SaaS Bhoomi is that they want to make India the product nation and not just like, a services nation as it always has been. So like basically, they want more and more people to be able to become successful, like a really nice US GTM as well. So essentially it started off as like a group of founders coming together for some sessions initially. Actually, Girish from Freshworks is one of the founders of SaaS Bhoomi. Apart from that, is Krish, who is also one of the founders of Kissflow, again from Chennai based SaaS founder. Avinash Raghava, who's been building communities for almost all his life and has built so many amazing communities. He was also one of the initial founders. And then basically what they started doing was they were started initially organizing like few events in Chennai for 30, 40 founders, and for them to share with each other what's working for them and what's not working. And what started as like a 40-member community initially is now like 10,000 plus founders part of that. Everyone's like, they organize a lot of events as well. So like the flagship event is actually SaaS Bhoomi Annual, which happens in March every year in Chennai, wherein close to 1,500 plus SaaS founders from all over India and sometimes US as well, all Indian founders, come to Chennai. And then, they have a lot of sessions about different things like SEO, for example, enterprise sales, account-based marketing, or like, how to use AI for your engineering teams and whatnot. So like, whatever thing, some companies have been able to do really well, they come and if their founders come and share their learnings as well, just be able to help other SaaS founders in India. So it's like an amazing, amazing community. I've gained a lot from the community by just attending some of these events. And we were also actually fortunately part of their SaaS Bhoomi SGX program. It's a GrowthX program, and they have like two cohorts every year, and they take close to 5 to 6 startups every year. And the idea is that any startup with like more than 250K in revenue and like has some sort of PMF for some customers, they basically want them to help them build like their GTM motion and build something that's more scalable and repeatable. And then we were also part of the SGX program a few months back, and it was really, really helpful. Again, the idea there is that they're literally very successful SaaS founders who are going to be mentors for you during the cohort for like 4 months, and they'll guide you through whatever you need. They'll help you set targets for what you want to be able to achieve, and then help you actually achieve that, or like go in the right direction as well. So SGX is great, and again the best part is it's all pro bono. Like, there's no equity, there's no money involved, nothing. Like, it almost sounds like a scam, but it's not. It's just like, it's unbelievable, how founder friendly it is, and then how, for free they're still able to give all of this. And again, these are people who are like, founders of, companies with like 50 million ARR, 10 plus million ARR, like exited founders who are like, starting up multiple times. So they're like very busy, very experienced founders, and they're basically taking out 4 to 5 hours of their week, every week for 4 months continuously to just help other founders in the cohort. So it's like completely pro bono, like paid forward kind of program, or everyone's just a volunteer without expecting anything in return. So it's just like an amazing community.
Both YC, SaaS Bhoomi, and I think IIT Madras or IIT Chennai also has a big founder network. You were able to leverage all three. And so, what was the biggest thing you got out of all the community interactions you've got? What's the biggest lesson?
Oh, I think one very important lesson were from YC initially, because that was the first actual community that we were part of, was mainly like sell before you build, right? Like before that we were just focused on building the product, getting a lot of users, didn't care about revenue. But that's when we realized that's not how you validate an idea, because again, if something's for free, there's a lot of people who would want to probably use it and whatnot, right? And it never gives you sign of you can just be in that loop and just keep building for years and years and still not have any outcome at all. And that's one thing that we mainly learned from YC, which is like if you're building something, just validate or invalidate that very quickly in terms of is there a potential for you to be able to build like a very big company out of it, or if there's not, then you should figure out what else you should be working on, and also just try to sell something before you build so that you know whether or not an idea is working, and you just don't end up wasting months just building something and then realizing it's not working. So that was very important for us to realize, because that's not something that we were doing with our previous product. We just focused on building the product. So I think that was one of the very, very important learnings. And apart from that, I think another huge learning has just been like, ship really fast, right? Like just keep experimenting. Don't wait for the perfect moment to launch or anything like that.
Right.
Just keep shipping and then you will know something that works. And that's something that we've seen ourselves as well. Even, with Clueso, as I mentioned, we had done like a LinkedIn launch when we just had like a very basic MVP as well. And that
Right.
helped us book a lot of demos. And then we were basically constantly iterating and then like, launching things on LinkedIn as well. And then one of them actually struck really well with a lot of people. We got a lot of demos booked, and that's when we knew that that was working, or that feature or that module was working really well. So we just started doubling down on that basically. So I think, just launching fast and then just, iterating very, very fast is also something that's really, really important. And that's also something, that we learned by being part of YC initially. And then, we've just been seeing that with, a lot of other communities that we have been part of as well, in terms of, not just product, even for the GTM, you have to do the same thing. Like, start with some experiment, iterate with it, and try and like, keep seeing if it's working or not. And then always be open to experimentation and don't just have like, bias towards something specific unless you know that it's definitely working for you and you have like, predictable outcomes from that. Just keep experimenting, and then, that's when you'll land at something that would work really well. So I think that's another big thing that we learned. And apart from that, another thing that we've also been learning as young founders is how to go about hiring, how to go about building that initial team as well. And like, what should be the things that we're looking for? Where should we find these people from? And like, what should their pay structure be, compensation be? All of that as well is something, that we've been learning from like, the SaaS Bhoomi and the IIT Madras communities that we are part of. Because a lot of team members that we've hired in India. So of course, YC does not have a lot of relevant
Yeah.
information on that. It's mainly for US team members. So that's another thing about which we've learned a lot by just meeting other founders via SaaS Bhoomi or IIT Madras, and just asking them how did they go about hiring their first few engineers, what worked, what did not work, and things like that.
Interesting. And so when you're moving this fast and shipping this fast, especially, I think all three of you are first time founders, right?
Yeah, I mean, we basically were building a different product before, but yeah, it's still.
Yeah. And so, how hard was it to like nail down the roadmap, given you were shipping so fast and moving in different directions? How do you keep a sane roadmap?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think initially it's all about just, working very closely with the customers and, figuring out what's working for them, right? Like keep launching something strikes and then you onboard a few customers for that. Work very closely with them, understand, if it's actually solving their problems. If not, what else do they need? Or like, what can you do to, help them more, or like, save them even more time or whatever, right? How can you solve more of their problems? So just working very closely with them really, really helps. And that's what we are doing initially. And initially, it was majorly the roadmap was entirely defined by just customer requests. We're working with fewer customers, 8, 10 customers. We would understand what they needed, and then try to look at what others need as well. And the goal was to just ship very fast, and if it helps us close any deal, like just ship what the other customer is asking for, and then get them on board as well. And that's what we did with like our first 20, 30, 40 customers as well. And post that, of course, once you have like a huge enough chunk of customers, then you start hearing common feedback from them. You
Right.
also, of course, there might be some things that they're still, don't align at all with what other customers need. In those cases, you can always say no to those things. But I think initially we were just pretty much 100% reliant on just our customer feedback and trying to understand what they need and just trying to ship that. Later on, as we acquired more customers, it became a little more structured in terms of, okay, these many people need this, and this is how much impact or revenue, this can impact. So let's probably prioritize this over something else. But, even then, we always had cases wherein if you're working with, like, I had another enterprise or big company in pipeline, which could be a good logo. And if they really needed something, we would deal the other thing and then, ship this in a week or something like that, so that we could get them on board as well. So that's something that we were still doing pretty much, for the first entire first year. But post that, in the last few months, what we've started doing is, as I mentioned, we've post 200 customers, we started receiving very similar feedback as well from most of our customers. So we knew that the product base was already there. We just had to build those other pillars and then just move in that direction. So we had a list of all of those, and that's how we, based on what a lot of our customers needed, and based on the interactions that we were having on sales calls as well, we kind of realized these were what were required. And now we've also built those pillars, is what I believe in a lot of those cases. Now what we are going after is, where can we be innovative? So until now the goal was to make that process much faster and then make it easier for your customers. But now the goal is, what can we automate entirely for them? Instead of looking at 10x outcomes, we are looking at 100x outcomes now. Like, what can we do? Sometimes, of course, customers have problems, and the solutions they imagine is based on what they've seen so far as well. So it's not something that's probably the best solution as well for what they need. So what we are looking at is, given everything that's possible with AI, how do we you know like build workflows that are, or automate the entire process, instead of them having to just even do anything and things like that, right? So like, even more magical experiences, even more automated experiences is what we are focused on as a team. We want to always ship. So one way we also break our roadmap down is building innovative features, building for customer requests, solving for bug requests, and building something to close new deals, or for like four categories basically. There's some things that we want to build ourselves as a team, which we believe would be really impactful and would be really good for long term. Second thing is building something that our customers have been asking for. Third thing is building something that that are the things that are coming up in like calls with the sales, prospects, sales calls with prospects, because you want to close them. So like, you probably want to like build some of those things as well. And the final thing is just resolving bugs. Given that we are moving super fast, there are always going to be bugs. So there are four categories of things, and we always ensure that in every month, we do all four of these things.
Makes sense. And so, have you reached a point where you've started cutting features, or are you still not there yet?
Cutting features doesn't cutting something that we already have, or
Yeah, so like once when you ship fast and ship for closing, and you do that n number of times, you will reach a point where the product becomes a little bloated, and you need to kind of revisit the UX. Has that happened already, or it's
yeah, that's a
just
great question. Honestly, I don't think a lot of that has happened to us. Where even when we were like building for customers, or like like basically building based on their requests, we always thought about how it could fit in with the overall product experience, and that's one thing that we always had in our mind. And then so that's why I don't think we've reached that stage where we are actually where the product has become super bloated and we actually need to remove things. But there are some things that we built initially which we are not prioritizing anymore. They're still
right?
there, but the progress on that is not there regularly. Like, for example, we built like a knowledge base as well. So along with the video creation, some of the early customers that we were working with, they also wanted a way for them to be able to host all of their articles and videos on a Clueso powered help center or knowledge base itself. And that's when we thought that was actually a very nice thing to build. And we built that. And we do have like close to 15% of our customers who use that as well. But then now we've realized that's not something that's going to make us win this particular market, right? Our main thing that we are able to solve for is how faster we help people create the videos they need, and we want to like just double down on that and then do a lot more with that than focusing on other knowledge based features. Because in the if we end up doing that, then people will be like, Intercom has this, why don't you have this and all of that, and you would just end up building for feature parity. And that's when we were like, we took a hard decision that we already have a knowledge base. So whoever wants to use this knowledge base, they can continue using it if they find value in it. That's a separate add-on. But we are not like actively trying to sell that, or like actively trying to build anything on the knowledge base side, because we know that that's not something that's going to make us win. Maybe in future we'll start doing that again. But right now, what will make us win is basically doing a lot more with video, because that's what all of our customers come to Clueso for, and no one's coming for knowledge base. Knowledge base is probably a side thing that they also like, but
Right.
that's why, so we have not really essentially removed it yet. But what we've done is we've said, okay, we're not going to build any more new features on this for the next 1 year or whatever. We'll just focus on these particular aspects and then go all in on this. And if a customer does say something like, I actually need this, then we just say it probably then we are not a good fit if for your knowledge base aspect. Because again, now we cannot be building for individual customers. Now we need to build for scale, and something that could scale well as well. And especially now that we're working with like 350 companies plus companies already, it's just impossible to take particular, customers' feature requests unless they're like, a Fortune 10 or something like that. Then we could probably think about it.
How are you balancing right now? You're still not too big. Uh, Enterprise as an organization, I mean, in terms of size,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And some of the big accounts do require high touch, right? And you've also added PLG users. How challenging is it with a small team to do both? What are some of the automation you are using that is helping you, and what could others learn from this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say, if possible, don't try to do both together. Start with one. But I think in our case, because it was always initially enterprise, and what we realized is, for us to be able to build like a massive business here, and given that we are in B2B SaaS companies, we will have to close like very big deals. Only then we'll be able to build a massive business, and that only happens when you're able to sell to enterprise companies, companies with like 1,000 plus employees, or unicorn companies as well, at least.
Hmm.
So that's why we still wanted to do the enterprise motion as well. But one thing that we were also, like, as I mentioned, first 200 customers that we onboarded or acquired were all through demos. And one thing that was happening was basically, I was doing demos with like very early stage companies as well, with just three people who really needed the product, and they ended up purchasing the product as well. But then, for them also, it wasn't a great experience to actually come on a demo call and then, like, take a demo and then get onboarded. Or, even for me, it didn't make sense for me to, spend a lot of time with them, given, how small the deal size was going to be. And that's when we realized, given that, our product is so horizontal, wherein it works very well for like a one person company all the way till like, 10,000 plus employees company, or whatever the company size is, right? That's when we're like, we still don't want to ditch or like, say no to smaller companies, because again, if we can build like a good high, low touch motion with them, that's still a great win. And also, those are the kinds of customers that can help us get more customers as well, because they talk about it, they post about it on Product Hunt, LinkedIn, and whatnot, and then, can help us build like that viral, network effect as well. So that's why that was the idea behind launching PLG, because we did have a lot of, companies at seed stage and Series A stages as well, or even earlier than that, and for whom it didn't make sense for us to get on like a, demo call and then an onboarding call and create a separate Slack channel and all that. That's when we like, let's do PLG as well, so that early stage companies who prefer signing up on their own, or even bigger companies, they can sign up on their own. But, for companies, again, for still bigger companies who sign up on their own, we will still have like an inside sales motion, wherein we'll figure out who those companies are, reach out to them, schedule a demo with them, and try to move them to the enterprise plan. And of course, some people will directly book demos because their requirements are much different than, what they see on the normal plans, or like, they need enterprise features as well. So that's what we have been doing. So far, it's been working well. It's again very tricky to manage with like a young team, and that's another thing that I'm actively focusing on, which is expanding the team and, hiring more on the business side as well. So far, it's just been me and one customer success manager, but now we've realized that we need more people. And in terms of, as you mentioned, like, enterprises need high touch, totally agree with that. And in fact, that's something that we want to do as well, so that, we are in constant touch with customers, and we know what more can we solve for us to be able to build like a massive business, or expand within that particular enterprise as well, right? So I think, with enterprises, we still do like Slack channels, team chats, whatever they preferred, and our response rates are super fast, and everyone really loves it. Like, whenever they have any question, we respond really quickly. With them, we do onboarding calls as well and whatnot, right? So it's still super high touch with, enterprises wherever required, and, we do it as well, and we like it as well. And that's why we ended up hiring like a customer success manager, let's say, before a marketing person or before an account executive as well, right? That was our first business hire, because we want to ensure that, for our bigger companies, they can still have, a dedicated CS, and we can have like a very high touch, support for them as well. And that's something that I and our customer success manager, handle very well.
Interesting. And how was the like onboarding journey when you bring someone from outside? See, the three of you have been supporting and selling. You know the product inside out. There is a a very different level of knowledge you have versus someone from outside. What did you do to prepare, and how would you advise other founders to do this and avoid things that might not have worked for you?
No, that's a great question. I mean, 100%, of course, as founders, you always have a lot more context than anyone else will ever have. And, I think the way you onboard people is also different for different kinds of roles.
Right.
For engineering, it's different. For design, it's different. And, on the business side, it's different. And because I'm mainly focused on business, I can, talk with that. Essentially, one thing that worked well for us when we were hiring the customer success manager is the person we hired was a user of Clueso at his previous company.
Oh.
It was like a very strong inbound that I received saying when I put out a job role on LinkedIn saying, I'm hiring for a customer success manager. He reached out to me saying, here's why you should hire me. I've been a customer of Clueso myself. I've been using the product. I relate with the product problem entirely. I know the product in and out. Because I myself am the user, I know what kind of problems that the users might be facing, or like, whenever they do face issues, how can I go about resolving them for them as well and all of that. And again, of course, as a young startup, we work from Monday to Saturday, close to, 11, 12 hours every day, and not just founders, all the team members as well. Of course, founders put in a lot more, but then, we are like a very hardworking company, I'd say, because, we work on Saturdays as well. Our entire team, everyone is in person, in Bangalore, in office, always. Even on weekdays, the working hours are intense as well, in terms of, but of course, it's super fun. We all like, it's a very chill environment. We're all a very young team. I think the average age overall is still 25 out of like, 11 people we have so far. The everyone's super dynamic, the energy matches as well. And we're a very hardworking company. So one thing that I also noticed in his inbound was he's a super hardworking guy. Can do anything to make sure the customers are happy. And that's one thing that I really liked, right? So in my case, as I mentioned, my experience has always been my top priority to ensure that customers have like the best experience they can. And I know for a fact that I was offering that, and I was able to offer that as a founder. I was able to offer top-notch experience as well. And that was one worry with me, hiring like a customer success manager and giving him some accounts to start managing without me being so involved. But then this guy Anirudh who reached out, he like knew for a fact that he could do a better job with me than me, for some of those accounts, and they make sure that customers do get what they need and they're very happy as well. So it is the combination of a lot of things that worked with him, and especially because he was a user of Clueso as well, he related with the problem really well. He knew the product very well as well. That was a great thing, that worked well for us. But otherwise, in terms of onboarding, I think it's really important to make your team understand why you're doing anything you're doing. That's like really important. It's not just an onboarding thing, but it's a regular thing, right? Like if you're prioritizing some particular feature, everyone should know, or like, at least the engineer and the designer who are building that should know why we are building this feature, exactly why we are building this feature, what kind of impact can it have as well. So everyone should be able to empathize with the, customer, or, relate with the customer, understand the customer problems really well. And typically that's something that, only the founders or maybe sometimes product managers and like, let's say a customer success or support team has. But in our team, we've also ensured that, every Saturday or, once in every 2 weeks, we also set up like 1 or 2 hour sessions just talking about customers. Here's what our customers had to say in the last 2 weeks. And then, here's some of the problems that they're facing. Here's some things that they're really liking. And here's what we are building. And this is exactly how it's going to impact. And these are the customers it's going to impact as well. So I think that's really important to make sure that, everyone is aligned on why we are building something, and, has that motivation to, go that extra mile and make sure that, they're able to deliver the top-notch experience as well. So I think that's one thing that we have been doing and has been working well, and which I believe everyone should be doing. The second thing, again, is just in terms of, like one thing we've been as a team is like very open, and then, there's no hierarchy or any structure as such so far. Again,
Right.
because we're still a very young team, and then that way, everyone can speak out, and whenever they have any ideas, we're always open to listening, which is also super important when you're, working, especially at a startup when you're just at an early stage. A lot of ideas really matter, right? So there are a lot of times when we want to build some features, but then some of the team members are like, I actually really want to build this. We're like, okay, let's just do it, because in some cases it's been super impactful as well. So that's been another thing. Another thing that we also do while hiring is we do work trials with people. So we don't give an offer directly. We have like a 3 day or 7 day work trial, and ideally like an in-person work trial, so that we can work with them, give them a project, see how they're executing, see how they're working, see what the, what their working style is like, and if it matches, what we are looking for. And also, of course, for them to see if they would enjoy working with us. Because if they're with us in that office space for 3 days, for 3 entire days, they will know what kind of team we are, if they would enjoy working with us as well, and all of that. So I think doing that has been like, really good, and I'd recommend everyone doing work trials as well. And that's also something that we learned from YC, especially, and like a lot of other US companies from our batch as well. In there it's this is like a very common thing that people do. Like they do 1 week work trials or like contracting before they hire someone for full time, and which is also what some of the Indian companies have started doing so far. But that's how we got to know about it, and then we do that with pretty much everyone we hired. On the business side, it becomes trickier because you don't like you don't see the outcomes in 7 days. Let's say if you're hiring on someone on the sales side or like someone to set up like an outbound motion, they're definitely not going to book demos in 7 days. It'll take time for them to understand what our positioning is, what the product is, and all of that. But I think with them, what we've been able to do is just giving them like take home assignments wherein we're just saying, okay, as a customer success manager, here's our situation right now. This is what it looks like. This is the churn that we have, and here are the reasons why customers are churning or whatever. What would your plan of execution be for the first 6 months? How would you solve for XYZ problems? And then, we ask them to create like a nice, 2-pager, 3-pager document of them outlining the exact things that they're going to implement and how they're going to go about executing them as well. So that's one thing that we do on the business side, but on the engineering side or the design side, we do like a direct work trial with them, and that's been working very well as well.
Interesting. One of the things that I think I wanted to ask earlier was you chose to put a book a demo button on your landing page versus a wait list, right? What would like why did you choose book a demo versus a wait list, and what are some of the lessons there that you would recommend?
The reason why we did book a demo versus a wait list or like having people sign up on their own, I think as I mentioned earlier as well, one thing that's really important when you're building the product initially is for you to know what is working and what is not working and what are the exact problems that you're trying to solve for your customers. So I think if we had just had like a wait list or a way for people to sign up on their own, they would sign up, try it out, and we wouldn't know what's working and what's not working, right? So I think that's something that's really, really important for any early stage company to understand. And that's why having like a book a demo kind of setup really worked well, because because I was doing like 5+ demos every single day, I was talking to like the potential end consumers every day, trying to understand what their problems were, what they were looking to solve with a tool like this as well, because of which we were able to use a lot of that in deciding what our initial product direction should be, what should our initial features we're releasing should be. So I think that is really important. I'd 100% recommend to anyone who's starting up, irrespective of what the product is. Maybe with AI things are changing, wherein now like you can offer that experience, and like sometimes you just want to take a bet, and then probably the concept of MVP itself is changing, wherein now you just like a thing that just does one of their workflows doesn't really solve it. People wanted to solve end to end, or like are looking for tools or like agents that can actually add a lot more value than just make them a little more efficient. So that's probably changing. But anytime, I think if you're still selling to businesses, and if you're looking at having a price point of more than, let's say, 200 $300 a month, then you should definitely set up like a book a demo kind of motion, so that you talk to them, understand what their requirements are, understand what their pain points are, and then of course also make sure. So another thing that's very important is, initially, let's say when you're just launching, your product experience is not going to be top notch.
Right.
The onboarding is not going to be on par at par, or and of course, there will be like in a lot of product gaps as well, and there will be bugs and whatnot. That with that high touch motion with like a Booker demo and like setting up a Slack channel after that, you can make sure that their experience is still great, because you are guiding them through that journey. Like you are like a guide with a tourist, and walking them through the journey until they find value, and you make sure that you make sure that they are actually finding the value as well. So that's what I was doing. So initially, it wasn't just Booker demo. Booker demo was to actually learn their requirements, show them what we had, and post that if it looked like it was relevant and they had a budget, I wouldn't just give them the product access even after that as well. I would
Right.
schedule another onboarding call wherein I would give them the product access on that call, and then get them to share the screen, and I'd walk them through, creating their first video with Clueso. So that way they were able to experience the product in front of me as well, even though the UX wasn't perfect, because they were able to experience in front of me and I was able to guide them through, they were able to see the value right away. And then that's how, you could also ensure that you're able to make sure that your customers are getting value. And that's another thing that really, really helped us early on, and that's why we continued that for like 1 year and up to close to 200 customers. But after that, it's just impossible to manage the scale unless we scale the sales team accordingly as well. And that's when we're like, now that we know the direction, the experience is sorted, now let's actually start a PLG.
Right, right. Booker demo makes so much sense. It also in a way is a much higher currency for validation, right? If somebody is actually booking a call,
Absolutely, it's
means
like
your
a one
messaging is
layer of filter. Yeah, it's like one filter as well, right? So like a lot of people want to try something out, but are they actually serious enough to book a demo with you, spend that 30-45 minutes with you, and then go through that and then give it a shot, right? Like otherwise, earlier that's also very important, which is you're not just getting like fake traction, but actual users who will want to use this and who would want to pay for this. And that's also possible. And this is like one layer of filter because they also have to go through like more effort for them to be able to get access to your product now. They have to book a demo, understand your product well, and then like answer a few questions, and then they get access. Of course, that's a resistance. Maybe we lose out on a few customers because of that, because some people really do not like book a demo kind of setup. But again, those are like few people. Like early on, what you're looking for is the companies who you can work with where you are actually really finding really solving a massive problem and not just them exploring your product. So I think that's something that's important, and with the amount of effort that they're putting in, that this is like a problem worth solving for them, and they would be willing to pay for something like this.
Yeah, makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. Well, that was it from me. Neel, it was such a lovely conversation. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. It was great having you.
Yeah, no, love chatting with you as well. Always great to chat about our journey and share what's working for us and learn from others as well. So yeah, thank you for having me.
One last thing, are there any promotions going on right now, and where can people find more about you and get in touch with you or sign up for Clueso?
Yeah, if you want to sign up for Clueso, then just go to our website, clueso .io. That's where you can go to the website, you can see a demo video, and then sign up for a trial as well if you want to give it a shot. Now we don't have like a compulsory book a demo anymore. So, you can feel free to sign up on your own and then, test it out and see if it's relevant for you. And if you ever want to reach out to me or talk about, any of the topics that we discussed today in this conversation or, ask me anything, just feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Very active there on LinkedIn. So reach out anytime and I'd love to help in any way I can.
All right, awesome. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. See you in the next episode.